Better love each other because it's all we got on this planet is us.
Amen.
And the animals, the ones that are still left.
Is it?
Wait, and all of you are standing up, there were no bathrooms.
Okay, thank you for that. I just didn't want to lose the crowd. Hi, Steve, how are you? Our business manager for almost 30 years at METCO headquarters. Hello? They said they can't hear me better there. Huh?
Yeah.
They said it's on.
It is.
They said they can't hear me back there.
It's on. It's on. Just speak.
Okay, so we want to be able to have the sanitizing thing too, okay? All right, sorry again, everybody. Lots of little logistical. We're trying to do our first ever hybrid model over the grand opening, right? So we got people live here on YouTube, on social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of those things that I don't have, and in all of the rooms upstairs as well. So I want to just welcome you. My name is Millie Arbaje Thomas. I am the president and CEO of METCO. I've been here for 3.5 years, and this is truly, truly a dream come true. One of the first tasks given to me in this leadership role was to find a new home, you know, and to move us into the community, to make sure that we have a place that actually was accessible and that actually told our story. So for me, this really is beyond a dream come true. When I first got the space, and I'm gonna have our board chair say a few words because he was really responsible for making this happen. Our board chair, Patrick Kimball, who's right here behind me, is a Lincoln Sudbury alum and is our board chair and is a commercial real estate guru here in Boston who knows everybody, and he made this space happen. He found it. To be extremely affordable, and he negotiated the construction. He'll say a little bit about all the people, and the design of it was all something that one of our METCO alum has done and has given back. So I'm very grateful for helping to make this a reality. I want to make sure that we have time for the ribbon cutting officially as well, and also for touring the space. Everything here was strategically planned out and thought through. In terms of telling the story of the METCO program. So as you can see here, this is the program, the story that led to desegregation and school integration and the creation of the METCO program. So it's an amazing story that tells you at the beginning of the wall, if you don't have a chance to see this, how desegregation started with housing, and how then here in Boston, the school committee would not allow Black students to go to certain schools. Louise Hicks is a name we don't like here. You know, I just like to say that story because we have to remember that. And then the Boston families, excuse me, the Boston families and the Black families of this community said that was not right. You know, I have classrooms that don't have pencils. Jean said this in her documentary, you know, and overcrowded classrooms. And how come we can't go to schools in other communities? Why is this happening? And this story tells you how, you know, the families here in Boston actually did an act of civil disobedience, and they did stay-outs that are called freedom schools. And for one day, they stood out and didn't go to school and went to churches and community centers to learn, and to learn about Black history, and to learn about themselves, and to learn about leadership. So they didn't just take a day off, they took a day to protest about an education, stay out for freedom. Then, shortly after that, there was a loophole that was found in the school committee, in the Boston school rules, that says if you can get yourself to any school in Boston by yourself, you can attend any school that you wanted. So Black families organized buses and vans and carpools, and they just showed up to school on their own, unwanted. But they just said, this is my city. This is, you know, I want to go to that school and I'm going to show up with opposition, but they showed up. That was called Operation Exodus. Then shortly after that, the legislature noticed that it was not right for people to be segregated, that the state should step in and do something about this. So they created the Racial Imbalance Act that was proposed by Royal Bowling, that BPS is named after him. And that Racial Imbalance Act is what protects the METCO program and was made the METCO program possible. For those of you that don't know, we are fully funded by the state of Massachusetts. We do not take any money from Boston, like some people may think. It's fully funded by our state, and our legislators are here today. And I want to say a huge thank you. She'll say a few words to Senator Ching Diaz. A huge thank you to her. She is the lead at the Senate House for METCO for years and has been securing millions of dollars. Right now, we are at $27.9 million to support our 33 towns, and Sonia fought to the end and got us an extra $1 million plus this past year during the pandemic. So thank you, Sonia. And shortly after that, in the suburbs, they were actually noticing what was going on in Boston. So Leon Trillin, who was the chair of the school committee in Brookline, came and actually called Ruth Batson, who was organizing a lot of this work as the chair of the NAACP Education Committee. And then he called her over. He said, you know what? I got some seats here in Brookline. Why don't we have a meeting? And they sat there in front of the school committee in Brookline, and Brookline said yes. So Tommy Batolo, our state rep in Brookline, who's now carrying the torch of there. They said yes, and they took this on the road, and they went to speak to other communities around in the suburbs. And in 1966, the first buses launched to the METCO program with 220 students in 7 districts. Shortly after that, so you're gonna get a little quick bio on this, on the history of METCO, if you don't get to read it all today. Shortly after that, the assassination of Martin Luther King happened in 1968. And all of a sudden, all of these suburban towns said, you know what, I want to do something about this. You know, we have something that we can contribute. We know that we can actually play a role in this racial climate. And the METCO program doubled that year. It's very important for you guys to remember that, because that's happening right now. People are asking for them right now, exactly when the murder happened. Then our legend, Jean McGuire. It's only been 5 leaders of the METCO program, and it's been around for 55 years. So that's pretty historic, and that was because Jean held the torch for a very, very long time and helped us sustain the program for all of these years. But something interesting about Jean that I love this part of her story. And there she is with Ruth Batson and Jean before the program was even fully started. But she ran, Project Exodus. She actually ran for the school committee as the first Black woman to run for
History of Boston.
second woman, but the first Black. Yeah, first Black woman to run for this role. Won the seat. So here she is, leading Boston Public Schools and leading METCO. That's pretty historic. So she'll tell us a little bit of. Okay. So Jean, as we know, Jean helped us to a lot of accountability. She kept pushing the envelope, telling people what needed to get done. And for 43 years as executive director, she led the way here. And then shortly after that, well, not that shortly, about 20 years later, let me see the year there real quickly. Yeah, well, not, okay. So less than 10 years. I have to, my husband's gonna tell me I don't do math. He's a math teacher. Anyway, so 1974, Judge Garrity passed the law that schools had to integrate by forced busing. And that is when Boston Public Schools started to actually.
Bus was not in there. It wasn't about the bus, it was about us.
Okay.
The word bus, transportation is a given in America, that people would get anywhere. It was just because of color. Just color. That's because all of us, when you have an operation, your stomach looks the same, whether you're male, female, black, white, green, blue. It was the issue of color. And before that journey, there were no women principals.
Okay, so Jean, we gotta get all this history from her. So that, so this happened and schools had to be forced to integrate at whatever cost. And that is when integration happened here in Boston. But you know what's so exciting about that? The METCO was already doing it voluntarily, with nobody making us, just because it was the right thing to do. I just love that part of the story. While Boston was trying to get it together, METCO was already doing what they needed to do. And then that's been happening for all of these years, and it's still happening now, and we're still trying to figure that out, how students are going from one neighborhood to another one to see the same exact demographic. So I do think that the METCO program does have, it's part of the solution because not that many people are doing what really needs to be done. And then we talk about, what we're focusing on right now. In today's METCO, really about convening, about telling the story of the METCO program. When I came onto this job as a mother, I'm a mother of students that went through Brookline. And I was a mother first for all of those years. And I didn't know the history of the METCO program. And when I heard about it and learned it in this role, I said, wow, this story has to be told. Because if we remember how this program started, if we remember what the purpose was, and if we remember what still needs to be done, maybe, just maybe, we can do more. Because whatever we're doing is just not enough, guys. It's not enough. And I'm very, very proud of our 33 districts. I've been meeting with every single district this summer, and all of them are doing anti-racism work. Every single one of them, in one way or another, whether through a curriculum audit, equity audit, focus groups with their students, whether it's with hiring diverse teachers, whether it's creating a pipeline for their staff to move up, whether it is hiring DEI directors, diversity, equity, and inclusion directors. But every single one of our districts have made a commitment, whether it's adopting anti-racism resolutions by their school committee to really do well by this program and by their community. So everybody's doing something right now in the METCO program, and that is what this anti-racism movement is about. Last year, when George Floyd was killed, 12 communities reached out and said we want to join the METCO program. That is why I say this comparison. When Martin Luther King was assassinated, it happened. And now, at the same way, people are saying we're not diverse enough in this community. We feel like we can actually help. And that is what we're focusing on right now, as well as trying to look at seeing what is METCO's role, in today's society. There's integration bills at the State House that are being introduced on purpose to integrate schools. We have Senator Crichton and Senator China Tyler who are proposing bills to actually look at this. There's a diversity commission that Sonia leads right now that was just created as well to really look at all aspects of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and racial equity. And on the federal side, Biden lifted the ban for transportation, for federal dollars to be used for transportation. We're trying to find out what that really means, Jim, so we need a little bit of help there. But everybody around is looking at this, and they're looking at that the only way that we're gonna really have a better society is through integration. And I know we can integrate communities, we can integrate housing that fast. That's why this program started, because people began to segregate and leave certain groups behind. But what we can do is we can educate people together. We can do that, and we have to remember that no one should be educated in isolation. Nobody benefits from an isolated education, nobody. Not our white counterparts, not our Black and brown students, nobody does. And that's why I'm proud about this program. I don't care how small it is. If people tell me how tiny it is in this community, I've heard people say a little bit of diversity doesn't make a difference, but they're wrong. They're wrong because one person can make a difference. Patrick went to this school and was introduced to a friendship to this Korean commercial real estate. Kamala Harris, our vice president, went to a school that she was being bused, and now she's our vice president. So nobody can tell me that a little bit of diversity don't help. When I was into Brookline, there was a lot of things that wasn't happening there, but I was a parent first, and I talked to them about the curriculum, and I talked to them about the school lunches being diverse, and I talked about how you're gonna do walk to school on Green Day. What about METCO? And guess what? All those things change. So all of these little experiences do make a difference. And I know that there's plenty of groups here that are actually doing racial equity work in your communities. And those are the people that are at the housing level are gonna be able to change something in those towns. So I do believe that we are part of the solution. I do believe that we can do better. I go around and I always tell people I don't compare METCO to anybody, because you know what? There is no comparison. There's no comparison. I'm not here to say what's happening in Boston. I'm not here to say what's happening in charters, because what we're doing is unique. There's no comparison and there's no competition. You know why? Because we all have work to do. Every single school system that I just mentioned, exam schools, Boston Public Schools, charter schools, private schools, METCO, we all got work to do, because none of us have it completely together, because this is complex. It's complex to educate our students. It's complex to deal with racial inequities. So we're not comparing ourselves to nobody. We're here to do what we can do for the students that we serve and to support each other. I'm extremely grateful for the partnership with Boston Public Schools that we have created. So I want to give them some shout out. They have given all of our students passes for free, every single one of our students. Adi Martinez, who's our Chief of Health and Human Services here, he just gave us our first $100,000 grant so we can hire our students in Boston so they can work in Boston. That never happened before. I'm very proud. I'm very proud of my city. You know, my husband, some of you guys know that he runs a high school here, New Mission High School in Boston. So I gotta go home and go to bed in peace. So, that's why I never compare anything, because I know how hard it is for all of us to do this work, and none of us have it together. So just make sure that we are all unique and distinct and different. I wanna end my little part of this talk with saying that there's 3 words that I picked up this year as it relates to METCO. And that is to remain inspired, the 3 I's, remain inspired to do the work, do your work with intentionality, know what it is that you're going to do, and go after it, do it. And then insist on change. Do not give up just because there's a lot of talk right now about racial movement. We don't want this to stop because it's not about one race or the other. Imagine how different your perspective would be if you had a friend that looked different than you. Would you be listening to the media? Would you be actually letting someone coerce your mind? I always say that the METCO program is not about busing. Busing is just how we get there. It is a movement of transforming people's lives through these interracial friendships and through this integration in our classroom. It is that type of movement that we're here to do. This is not a program, everybody. This is a movement. And my question to you is, what is your role in that journey? And I hope in some way or another, you'll be able to join us and you'll be able to leave here. And the reason I wanted to do this exhibit, it is because it is too powerful. If you know what Black families did to organize, to just fight what they should have gotten from the very beginning. When I look at this, it's just like, as an immigrant who came here in the 80s, I didn't live this. I didn't know any of this stuff. And when I learned it, I said, you know what, everybody needs to know because we need to be reminded that this is bigger than anybody. Our students researched the archives this summer. We hired them and they actually, last year and this year, and they researched all of this history. We're a historic program, so our archives exist in Northeastern University. And they researched all of this. And then the next step to this exhibit hall is that we actually had our students from the summer jobs program that Marty helped us to get the money. We actually paid them and they researched all of Nubian Square as well. So we're gonna have a tours beginning where you can come and tour this facility and actually be led by our young people. And then they're gonna go out to Nubian Square and identify key leaders in key spaces that are relevant to our community. And all of that happened through that. I want to also just thank my staff. Obviously, this couldn't have happened without a team of people that believed in what you're trying to do. So HQ staff, I want to say thank you to you for the hard work. Very, very special thank you guys to someone very special who's been my partner in crime since Brookline when we were parents, before we both got this job. And that is Colin Stokes, our Director of Communications. And where's Colin? So let me tell you why I'm going to tell you this about Colin.
There he is.
Yes, Colin. So Colin is our researcher, our archivist, our writer, our communicator, and our graphic designer. Every single little thing you see in this wall was designed by Colin. All of it. Every picture, every word, every document, he spent months and months and months researching everything to tell us the perfect story and to highlight everything. So it's a privilege, Colin, to work with you and to know that our story from Brookline as parents has brought us here to tell the story to everybody else. A vision, and it's one thing to be able to have someone to help you execute it. So thank you for all the fights and all of the tug of war. And then we finally got here. We were here Saturday. We were just like in awe. We're like, it came true. It came true. This is not a standing place that's going to remain in hiding. We are gonna tell this story and tell this story, tell this story until we do better. And now I'm gonna pass the mic on over to Patrick so that he can thank all of the people that had to do with this space. And then we're gonna have a few words as well from our Senator Chen Diaz, from Secretary Pizer, from our lead for all of the superintendents, Dan Gudikans, who is our superintendent in Needham, who has helped me to lead this work as well with the board of directors and with all of the superintendents. And then we're gonna have Jean say a few words as well. And then Elisa Giddens from Cohasset will close us in a blessing of the space. And we're gonna do the traditional ribbon cutting with a red ribbon here and take a nice couple of photos. And I'm sure there's gonna be in some local newspapers. I think we have the banner here, BNN, the Boston Globe, and possibly another channel. So we wanna make sure we do that so we can keep this historic moment. When I think I see Sharon, is that you, Sharon? So Sharon Scott Chandler is the Executive Vice President of ABCD, also a METCO alum. So I have spent 20 years of my life at ABCD, Action for Prosperous Community Development, the largest anti-poverty agency in New England. And that is where I did all of my nonprofit training that has helped me to get here today. So thank you for being here, Sharon. Patrick.
Right. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Millie, for the history and for kicking us off. I do want to start with the students, right? Because, you know, I'm a product of this program. We're here 2021. A lot has happened over the past 18 months. And honestly, it would not be possible. Like, none of us have a job or responsibility if the students don't do their job. So I do want to thank them and thank the parents that are in the room for continuing to parent and making sure that they're on their ball and we have something to fight for. So thank you all. I want to thank our directors, our METCO directors, because you guys are in the trenches. You're doing this work every day in the district. You're on top of the students. You're communicating with parents. And again, this cannot happen without you guys. And then just to the board and the team and the HQ staff, our state reps, all you guys fight for us tirelessly, and I really appreciate it. We appreciate it. When we went on this journey, it was like, we got a budget. We need to be within the vicinity of Boston. And I'm like, this is really hard. We're in one of the most robust real estate markets that our state has seen. So with that, the challenge was bestowed upon the METCO program once again. And there's two individuals specifically in this room, Mr. Lopes and Greg Janey. Thank you so much of Janey Construction. These guys, that's usually what I get at. If I get a responsibility, I like see how I can delegate it. So when I put these guys in the spot, they're like, you know what, for no one else, but for you guys, we'll absolutely find a way to make this happen. So seriously, thank you guys for putting us on the right path and allowing us to be able to make this place a home. And then, you know, it's tough because I look at the history of where we were, and to be able to continue to grow and transform and develop these students and provide them a place where they feel safe, nurtured, can actually, you know, focus on some work and get the type of programming that we're looking to continue to offer and support. You need a place to do it, right? It's very similar to how you guys can go home comfortable at night. We needed a place of comfort for our students. And when I walked this space, I remember when it was a construction site, I tried to hold off on coming after the finishing punch list walkthrough that Mr. Lopes and I had done, and then I stayed away from it for this day. And when I walk it, I'm kind of getting a little teary myself because to see all this history and stuff I know in passing, but you know, you're learning more and more day by day. So to see you guys here, to see this stuff up on the wall, to see the names and the impact, it really is moving. And with that, you know, again, we got to continue to move forward. There's a lot of work to still be done. And I think it was mentioned that we are indeed a state line item, and our state supporters make sure that we are indeed in business every year. But I do got to continue to lean on you guys in the crowd and our supporters to find ways to support us, okay? And I'm never gonna sugarcoat it. Money goes a long way with the mission that we're on, okay? So I believe there's gonna be instructions to text the number, and you guys can support live via that number. And then also you can always check out our website. That's always a great way to support. And if you have any ideas, things that we can do better, ways that we can offer more programming and services, that's what we're here for. We want to continue to improve And that's what we use those funds for. So our students need you guys, they need us. Let's continue to just kind of walk in unison here. And I want to just thank you all again for being here today.
Thank you, Patrick, our fearless leader. Yeah, I'm David again, Superintendent Needham. Often I am asked, how many students are in your METCO program? And I respond, 5,700. And they'll say, no, I'm not. How many students in your school system? How many are in the METCO program? And I say 5,700 students are in the METCO program. And what I mean by that is it's not the 180 Boston resident students who come to our community every day. It's all of our students working together who make a commitment to desegregation and integration and getting to know one another and to break down barriers that would otherwise exist. So we do have 5,700 students in our METCO program, and each and every one of them is critically important to the success of the program. And in fact, if you add it all up, I think it's just shy of 100,000 students in the METCO program in Massachusetts, not just the 3,300 that we often talk about. So with great thanks to our legislative partners who've encouraged us over the years to grow and to provide leadership, to our state education officials, particularly Commissioner and Secretary Advisor Cliff Chuang at the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, and Shay Edmonds, and so many others. I want to, on behalf of all of the METCO superintendents, all of us who are superintendents to about 100,000 METCO students, I want to thank all of you. I look forward to continuing the journey. Thank you.
Everybody, thanks. Good morning. Thanks, Billy. As you heard Millie say, I'm Sonia Chang Diaz. I represent where y'all standing right now, the beautiful Second Suffolk District, but in a larger sense, represent those 100,000 kids, right, who are METCO participants as Senate Chair of the METCO Caucus, which one Dr. G. McGuire voluntold me into that role when I first came into office. And I said, yes, ma'am. Bill is right. I do fight tooth and nail to the last minute, every year in the budget for the dollars for the METCO line. And I do it for these parents here. These parents who started Operation Exodus, who did not wait for the government to come and rescue them. But they got, they read the fine print, they found the way, they organized the volunteer carpool and donated buses, and they did it themselves. And then they didn't stop there. But in addition to doing the direct service and the direct organizing, they continue to do the advocacy work to hold their government, local and state, to account, to become partners with them, to make sure that this scrappy, duct tape and spit operation became an institution, right? With the name METCO and with a line item in the budget. And, I think about how we in this room and people, on the live stream and all the students, the 100,000 students and their families out there, how we are, our grandparents and aunties and uncles' dreams. Right, from 55 years ago. That the thing that they started with donated vans and carpools on, no extra money to spare, has become this institution that has endured for 55 years and that has become this beautiful space. And don't our kids deserve to have a beautiful space that is rich with history, where they're learning their roots, they're graced with love, with labors of love all around them. They can see how much those are, both their immediate family members, their community, and their government is investing in them. That's going to give them that inspiration to do great things. Again, talk about the difference that just a little bit of diversity makes, right? Tell it to the people of Baltimore, right? Isn't that the Baltimore DA?
Yes,
And tell it to ABCD, right? And there are so many examples. Tell it to the children who are getting social services from a METCO alum social worker who's now on staff at HQ, right, here at METCO. That little bit of diversity is going to create more diversity and more diversity and more diversity in turn at the tables of power throughout our Commonwealth and throughout our country. I was the sole person of color, and I'm not a METCO alum, but you know, in life circumstances that I won't go into here, I was a sort of, you know, adjacent to METCO. And I 5 or 6 years ago, was the sole person of color on a 21-person commission that was tasked with making recommendations about overhauling our K-12 education finance system. There were a lot of good people on that commission, but I will tell you candidly, had I not been in the room, the recommendations that we would have gotten out of that commission would have been wholesale different. And instead of having $1.5 billion with a B that we are now pumping into all our schools in Massachusetts, once we get the Student Opportunity Act fully implemented, it would have been maybe a few $100 million. That's the kind of difference that a little bit of diversity makes. And if we play our cards right, it's through this awesome system, this loving, rich system that invests in them. You know what, maybe 20 years from now, maybe even 10 years from now, what Millie said isn't so possible today, it is going too slow today with integrating our housing, right? Integrating our economics in Massachusetts. Maybe that wealth divide won't be so big and look so unbreachable. And maybe it won't look so impossible that we would have housing and communities that are truly integrated and that we don't just have to rely on METCO to do that work. That's the long-term play that METCO is going to help us get. So I'm proud to do it. It gives me honor, it gives me joy to be a part of the team that is living out the dream of these parents over 55 years ago. So I thank you, Dr. McGuire, for volunteering me into this work. I thank you, Millie, for making it joyful and wonderful and successful this year, the METCO staff, the board, and it's still a scrappy program, right? Even though we have this investment that the state legislature puts in. And I'm also going to talk about Jim Heisinger because many of you guys will know there are very few things that Jim Heisinger and I agree on. But here we are. We agree on METCO. But even though the state is putting in the investment, it is still a scrappy program, right? We've got board members who are finding the way to get a space in Boston, right? And they're reaching out to people they know in the construction industry and making sure we have an awesome team. We've got folks like Marty who are putting in a grant from the city level. Parents, superintendents like Dan who are making sure that there's strong partnerships out in the districts. Cliff, you guys don't know Cliff? Give it up for Cliff. Unsung hero of the METCO program for years, laboring in the vineyards at Desi, making sure that this program is taken care of. So I'm so proud to be part of this team, and we're going to keep growing this pipeline, expanding to more districts, because this program works, and people out there see it, and they know that they want something better for their Commonwealth, and they are raising their hand and saying, I want to be a part of that. And so we're going to keep growing this program for the next 55 and the next 55.
And on our side, seriously, Jim, our Secretary of Education for the state of Massachusetts.
Thank you, Millie. Thanks for inviting me today, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to blame you for making me follow the senator. That was really unfair. But I do want to acknowledge and thank the senator for her leadership, not just for this program, but as she mentioned, the Student Opportunity Act. On the one hand, it may not have even come to fruition if it weren't for your leadership. And then on the other hand, in terms of its scale, in terms of its impact, in terms of its ambition, it definitely wouldn't have gotten where it was without your leadership and support. So thank you for that. I also want to say it's an honor and a privilege to be with the legendary Chief McGuire. This is, legend, I'm glad you used the word legend because I was afraid to use it first, but it really is true, and it is an honor and a privilege to be in her presence as always. So thank you. And thank you for everything that you've done, which is really everything. Fair enough. But you would, there's no I in we, but you're in we. So, so anyway, so really grateful for that. I do want to sort of say also on behalf of the governor, the lieutenant governor, it is an honor and privilege to be here to celebrate this new space and really 55 years of METCO. You know, the governor grew up in Needham. He went to the public schools in Needham. His mother was very active in the METCO program in Needham, and so he spent much of his youth sitting around a dining room table with METCO students, you know, having lunch and dinner and snacks after school. And I can tell you it made a mark on him personally. So getting back to the ripple effects of this program and it being a program for 100,000, not 3,000, he's personal evidence of that. So much has already been mentioned, and obviously this is you know, clear to everyone in this room that METCO has been a pioneering and historic initiative in desegregation and integration of our public schools. But also it has been a tremendously successful program in terms of educational outcomes for the students who have participated. And whether you're looking at academic achievement or graduation rates or college going rates, there's no question that METCO is having an impact on the students it serves. And it has been mentioned already, in terms of the students in the partner communities, it has also had a tremendous impact in broadening and enriching their experience and their education. So it's clearly a win-win for everyone who participates. But you know, it's important also to remember that this doesn't just happen sort of by itself. That you just, you know, transport a child from one place to another and they have a great experience and all is well. It takes a lot of work and a lot of support. And a lot of that happens in the partner communities, to be sure. But a lot of it happens from METCO itself. I think this is really important to remember, and a really important reason for this space being here where it is to support those services, from academic supports to summer programs and job opportunities and career counseling and college coaching and a variety of other things that happen here that make it possible for those young people to succeed and to navigate their way through their journey. Because as you know, and as everyone, you know, certainly in this room and those who participated in METCO know, it's not always easy. And it can be very challenging, and you need that support network and system. And that's why this space and this organization is so important. And the last thing I'll say is, you know, I think METCO is, and this is, I don't think it is said often enough, but I think really very much to what you were talking about earlier about none of us have sort of the sole answer to this. METCO is part of a solution to the broader challenge of urban public education, certainly public education in Boston. Because especially in a large urban community, the diversity of needs and expectations and you know, other challenges mean that you have to have a variety of options for parents to choose from. And this is a critical one, and one that that makes METCO an essential part of sort of the public school ecosystem here in Boston. And for all of those reasons, I'm so grateful for METCO's existence, for its success, and for having the opportunity to be here this morning. So thank you.
Gina's gonna close us. We're almost there. Just asking for your patience for another, like, you know, handful of minutes. We have to do the ribbon cutting. But I would like the person in charge of our METCO program right now. I started off with Cliff, as you heard Sonia say when I started here, and now it has been passed on to another great colleague, Shay Edmond, who is now overseeing the METCO program at the Department of Education. And the commissioner really wanted to be here, but it's in about 5 different places today, and she has a few words to share on this behalf. And then after that, I'm gonna have Jean say a few words, and then we're gonna do the ribbon cutting. And there's, as you know, there's 2 authors upstairs who wrote books on METCO. One is a fiction EI novel, young adult novel about METCO, the only one that exists. There's also Susan Eaton, who's here, who wrote the book on the other busing story, and she'll be signing books as well. And we want you to also see the upstairs. You think this is really special here, which is really, really special. But upstairs, we have the pictures of our students surrounded by men and women who lost their lives in the Black Lives Matter movement. We have a media room full of all the news articles from 55 years ago till today, showcasing the program and its success and what it's still trying to fight for. And it's full of civil rights leaders all around. So every place here has a purpose upstairs so that we can continue to inspire no matter where the meetings take place. So I encourage you after this to please tour around. You know, it doesn't have to be long. We're gonna have open tours regularly. People will be able to book the space and use it for community meetings. People will be able to book our young people for tours. And then we have it called, we have a name, everything, people and I love acronyms. It's called the BEAT program. So the BEAT tour, Boston Education Activism Tour, is something that we created with our teenagers last year, and it had to go virtual. So now that's gonna go live. And then it's gonna be also called the BEAT tour / Nubian. So you can get an enhanced tour and just come here and learn the history of METCO. Or you can get an enhancement of that, and you can then go out to the community and we'll tour you around the main places, Milton, Royal Bowling, all of the people that made a difference in this community as well. So so don't worry about today. It's not going to be too much in terms of like spending time here. It will be open and you can come a lot of times, and you can even book spaces with your key people. Can you say something? Sure.
Just want to give you this book. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much for everything you do for medical students. This is a book inspired by a medical student. It tells the story of a 15-year-old Latinx girl in Boston who is struggling to fit in at her new district in part of the medical district. It's fiction, but it's based in truth. And it's a story that really needs to be shared widely. So I would love to sign this book to you. Thank you.
Thank you. And Didi is the author, and also, and did the book that's getting nominated for something?
Yes,
Can you tell us?
Sure thing. So this book was nominated for the Massachusetts Book Award. So I'm not checking my email every minute or anything. But I am signing books upstairs, and Frugal Books, which is around the corner locally in Roxbury, is selling books. So if you'd like to support us, we'll be upstairs. We'd love to get to know you. Thank you for everyone.
Let's make sure we take a picture. Okay. Also, I wanted to also, again, because I know it's gonna get toward the end and I don't want to lose the crowd. I want to say a special thank you, like a few people said here. I don't remember who I think already, because you know, guys, it's a lot. And this brain right now going on. I want to do a special thank you to the district directors. Literally for all the directors. If you're here, just wave. I know that everything the way that I do this work. And if it wasn't for you and your partnership and your commitment and your hard work every day to make sure the kids are arriving in those buses, that are being welcomed when they get out, that are being supported when they're there, and that you are challenging your school districts to see things from different perspectives, we wouldn't even be where we are today. So they are on the ground doing this work. So a special thank you for them for leading the program on the ground level. So to our METCO directors, and also to our superintendents. I see a few superintendents here as well. Got Pat from Cohasset. You see Dan from Needham. I think I saw Bridget from Walpole. But you know, we have a handful of superintendents around as well who every day sign off on this program. Because it's voluntary. It's voluntary. It doesn't have to continue. So thank you for that as well. Shay, where are you? Oh. Okay, so Shay's gonna say something on behalf of the commissioner, and then Jean will close us with some words and a brief blessing of the building as we cut the ribbon.
So I must say, following all those incredible speakers is not a task I enjoy. And then speaking before this award is also another task that I enjoy. But I will do my best. First and foremost, thank you, Millie, for inviting all of us to this beautiful space today. And I remember speaking with Millie about the construction at this site over the last couple of years, and just the labor of love, as the senator mentioned, is truly evident in this space. It has been mentioned that Cliff Chung, my colleague, has been a long time proponent of the METCO program within DESE, and I am fortunate and blessed to be able to support the program over the last 3 or so years now. And Millie and I have certainly developed quite the relationship. We have a lot of conversations over the course of the week. Sometimes there's yelling, sometimes there's shouting, sometimes we have a come to Jesus moment. But at the end of all of that, truly like sisters, and then at the end of the conversation, we are on the same page. We know the direction that we're going in. And that is to say that while the department has been a supporter of this program for so many decades, Millie and her vision just continues to push the boundaries, continues to push the envelope in all of the right ways. And so to say that METCO is lucky to have had such tremendously talented and powerful women leading it would be the understatement of the century. And so I am just incredibly happy to continue to work alongside Millie to continue to move this movement and mission forward. And I will say, while the commissioner cannot be here today, because as Millie mentioned, he is in about 5 places at once, he certainly does support this program. And that's evidenced by the staff that he has on this program. That's evidenced by his continuous support in the background in the meetings that folks just typically don't see all the work that goes into keeping this program going, keeping the mission front and center. And so it's special, and we understand that at Desi, and that might not always come through, but we certainly understand the uniqueness of this program. And finally, I want to close by noting that while the commissioner can't be here with Cliff and I today, and all of you distinguished folks in this room, I am happy to note that our newly appointed Deputy Commissioner, Regina Robinson. Regina, if you can just come over here. Been recently appointed to Desi, and to say that we are lucky to have her would be the other understatement of the decade century. And so she will be supporting Cliff and I as we continue to work day in and day out to support the METCO program alongside Millie, alongside all of the METCO directors that do the hard work that they do, like Latifah Frink right there. This work is not easy, and it does take a village. And at the end of the day, it's our METCO directors that are doing this incredibly hard work day in and day out on the ground. And so Regina, myself, and Cliff are just happy to provide the support whenever and wherever we can. And so thank you all. And never again, Millie, do you have me follow everyone? And then
To remind all of us that each of these superintendents here needs the support of people in the towns where children go to school. We used to call them friends of METCO and host families. And you need to have every family who's in METCO have a friend in the suburbs who comes to school committee meetings and town meetings and supports the superintendents. And the issue of transportation rate buses, sometimes just a little bit more money means there needs to be a voice that backs the superintendent. So please try to make certain that every METCO family has a friend out there. My son's host family friend is in San Antonio, and they still email me. They're both retired. You guys know. Unfortunately, mine never married. I don't know what I did. But I have lots of other children. Basically, what I'd like to say is, you don't know when you get on the subway who's going to sit beside you. You don't know who your children are getting there. You don't know who's going to be your roommate. You don't know who's going to live next to you. You don't know who's going to drive your bus. So if Paul flies your plane, or operates and cuts open some of the movies like mine. So it behooves you to make certain that everybody gets good education. It's part of a civilized society that have an educated citizenry. And that means that the people who handle the money, the banks, the people who are on committees that do budgets for government at all levels, need to hear your voice. You really need to use that internet, which wasn't there when I was around. And make certain they know who you are and what you want and why you want it. All of us are smarter and stronger than one of us. So METCO is about we, not me, And does me good to see this beautiful display here and all the memories that comes back. And another thing is, we only did one yearbook, the 74 yearbook, the first year. I couldn't afford it, but I have the yearbook of all the METCO students from all the towns. You can go into yearbooks in all the libraries in the high schools and see the METCO students if you have a project with someone wants to know who came from Boston or Springfield and went to your town. But that's something that would be nice to do again if somebody would like to take that over as a project.
I got my marching orders. We'll do it.
You can go and get the back years of METCO and stay in touch with each other because we need each other. This was a close call with the last president. I'm going to say that to you as an elected official. I don't like what is happening in this country. It's we, not me. We cannot separate ourselves from each other. We need each other. We have to love each other, care for each other. And that means all the institutional structures that are in there. Because all of us send our children to public schools and to independent schools, to church schools. There are all kinds of schooling. But all of us get involved on the same highways and ride on the same trains and fall in love with people that you may not want your children to fall in love with. So do a good job and make it we, not me.
Blessings, and we will do our ribbon cutting. It's ready to go. Okay, I got red ribbon. I feel you, Shay, comes to me. All right. Our Father and our God, we come before you today to thank you for the many blessings you have bestowed upon us. As we bathe this building with prayer, we ask that it will stand as a beacon of hope, an example of fulfilled promise, and a testament to the power of true community. I pray each family, each student, each community member who enters these doors would be spurred to make this world a better place than what we have witnessed. That the foundation of academic excellence that our foremothers, Ruth Batson, Jean McGuire, and our forefathers fought so hard to achieve when they began the exodus from Boston to those first 7 suburban communities would be realized no matter where our children go. As its history proclaims, METCO creates environments where different backgrounds can appreciate diversity, find common ground through shared experiences, build lifelong interracial friendships, and strive toward the mutual goal of preparing young people to become global citizens. In your eyes, there are no big eyes or little U's. We are all precious in your sight. So I ask, oh Lord, that you restore us, refresh us, renew us to do the work that you have called each of us to do. Let us always be mindful that but for your grace, we can be in a myriad of circumstances in which we would need the same assistance we hope to provide. Therefore, we cry out against every ism that would separate us and cause us to think we are better than another. Remind us of our humanity. Remind us that as you walk the earth, you never judged, you only loved. You sacrificed so we could be. Help us to sacrifice so that others may grow into what you have purposed them to be. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this moment. May we all continue to work hard to bridge the gaps in education and economics and community. Bind us all together toward the purpose of caring for each other, not just in word, but in deed. May we always reach back to help bring others forward. In your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Let the legacy continue. Chapter alumni, director, sorry, no. Situate alumni and Cohasset director. So we have many METCO directors who have that rich history and will come back to get the job to continue the legacy and do it better for the next generation. Thank you, honey. All right.
I had a son who went through METCO, he can't spell. He spelled French and Latin. He cannot spell anything. But he could fix everything. I would hold doorknobs and they come off. I get my sewing machine and in the phone, he got a little toolkit at 2 years old. He became, went to Wentworth. He took every shop course in Brooklyn. And he ran the Blue Line. he just retired. So it's the- The one thing I liked about METCO was that our schools, and we tried to do it in Boston, had good science and good shop courses. Make certain that your girls take everything, and your boys learn to cook. METCO was a chance for schools to open up in ways that they have not done before. And I'm hoping to see more of us, not just women, but when I was in there were no women superintendents, none, not even in Boston. That was the first thing we worked on. And I think the first black superintendent was American, if you went to Cleveland. We want to see some of you who went through METCO get into the educational scene here and become a voice, be supportive of the kind of work that current superintendents are doing. It won't mean anything if you're not there in the end run. So let's think about education administration as a way to do it.
I'm gonna ask for superintendents and medical directors and the construction company and community leaders. That would be Marty and if you can come down and Sharon, but if we can come here quickly to do this ribbon cutting, that would be great. Like all the officials, state, Bessie, city, state, what's the other one? City, state, church, I don't know. Anybody that's in the leadership role with METCO, please come for this picture. Board members, correct? Yes, board members, I bet you. Right, so I think that's closer, right? Let's come forward so we can squeeze in more people. Board members, board of directors. And we're just calling upstairs. Colin, you really should be here. All right. And Jean, where's Jean? Honey, gonna hold this with me. I've never done this before. I'm so excited. I opened up a lot of renovations I didn't believe. I never got to do this. I hope it's gonna hold Where are we looking? I don't know. Got the whole crowd. Yeah. The whole crowd there. Yeah. There you go. Jean, help me. Everybody, thank you so much for being here. Like I said, this is just a lounge, exhibit hall, but go upstairs, our staff is waiting for you, go upstairs and see the whole place and then come back. Thank you so much. Huh?
Jan and Susan?
Upstairs? Yes, and the book signing is upstairs, and please make sure you cruise upstairs as well. Thank you.
I said Max not to call you for the interview that you You are them.
Sonia. Wow. Wow.
But it was very difficult.